Hey guys, it's Adam Scougall, interior designer. Thank you for joining me on Friday's Wine and Design here at 4:30 p.m. If you're from some other place on the planet, thank you for jumping on at midnight or whatever the time is in New York or LA or wherever. I've got some people potentially watching. Yeah, thank you. I've got a really exciting show planned. I'm very excited to speak to my very special guest today. A little bit about me again before we kick off. So Adam Scougall, interior designer. I create beautifully unique homes for people that are staying put. If you would like to jump on a call with me at any time, please PM me or email info@adamscougall.com and I'd love to have a chat with you and I'll get back to you in the next 24 hours. So to cut to the chase, we've got half an hour here. I've got a very special guest on the show sitting right next to me. It's Yosi Tal, Managing Director of one of Australia's probably most lauded interior rug companies, premier rug companies, Designer Rugs. So how are you today, Yosi?
Wonderful, and I'm very happy and excited to be here on the show with you. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a real privilege.
Well, it's a privilege to have you here. We're having a bit of a chat, Yosi, before we jumped on here, and I'm pleased to say that I've been a devoted customer, I think, for the last few years, running my very small interior design business. But it's been a great experience along the way. So I'm actually keen to pick your brain about all the stuff that I don't know about in terms of how everything works at Designer Rugs, how you get a rug range made and what the inspiration is. So we've got a few sort of slides too to go along with our discussion today. Next question though, Yosi, it is wine and design. So I've got a glass here of Chardonnay. I'm hoping to get a sponsor at some point when they realise what we're doing here. This is Chardonnay. Is it a dry office down there at Designer? Hang on, it isn't. You've got a glass of something there. What is it?
It's a dry white from Western Australia.
Oh, fantastic. So that's brilliant. I've just brought up a little slide here, doing a bit of a slideshow, Yosi, because I want to sort of take everybody through some of the gorgeous rugs that are here. We've already got a few people, if you don't mind, Yosi, that are coming on, saying hello. Hi, Philippe. A good afternoon, Adam and Yosi. Thanks, Philippe. There he is, looking fabulous in his profile shot there. I love the pink. We've got Monique on saying hello. Hey, Monique, how you doing? And we've got another designer, Yosi, Michelle, who is a fabulous designer, Colour Confidence. Hi, guys. Hang on. Let me go and get the glass of Pinot. Oh, fantastic. Go ahead and do it, Michelle. Let it go. It's Friday afternoon. But Yosi, I mean, I'm really keen to talk to you now. I know a little bit about your background. I mean, if I log on Google, I can, find all sorts of things. And I know generally how long you guys have been around because you've just been a staple in the design industry. But so it's true. Tell me if anything here is wrong. It was 1986. You started the business in June 1986. Okay. Right. You started the business in Marrickville.
Yes, in a small little factory, 300 square metre factory, we started making handmade rugs.
With your mum and dad, is it Eli and Nurit?
Eli and Nurit, we started the business together, that's correct, yes.
Okay, cool. So from there, I'm just imagining I'm in Marrickville here, love Marrickville. You guys kicked off in Marrickville a lot of years ago. But you've got, I'm thinking Marrickville, little factory, to kind of this incredible list of achievements that you guys have created over the years, countless rug ranges. We're going to talk about them today. We've got Catherine Martin, like wow, Wedgwood, Designer Rugs, Greg Natali, all of those kind of staple labels in Australian design. So, and also too, you told me you did a rug for the Pope. What?
We've been going for about 6 months, and we got a phone call from an architect in Melbourne. That was in the middle of, that was towards the end of 1986, and the rug had been ordered in the Philippines for the Pope's visit in November '86. But the rug supplier in the Philippines couldn't make the rug in time, so they asked us if we could make it, and it was for St. Patrick's Cathedral in Melbourne, and we made the rug. We made it in time. And at the time, there was no internet, or there was no way of looking at images and newspapers and whatever. So we wrote to the agent, asked them if they had a a photo of the visit of the Pope at St. Patrick's Cathedral. And lo and behold, there was a photo, which is on our website. The Pope is kneeling on the rug looking down on it. And
really?
it was a phenomenal story, because until then, we just started the business. We were making particularly good quality. We had a lot of competition in the marketplace, and we weren't getting terribly too many orders. It was pretty hard. So we managed to get that photo of the rug kneeling on the of the Pope kneeling on the rug. And I used that photo when I went to visit architects and designers, and I was showing them, look, we've made a rug for the Pope. So after that divine intervention, we started getting a lot of orders. It was serendipity. It was amazing.
Oh, what an incredible story. So you're telling me that this photo is on the site? I haven't seen it.
It's on the website on the history page. That's right.
Oh, gosh.
He's kneeling and looking at the rug and saying, what an amazing rug made by an amazing Australian manufacturer. But
That's fantastic.
It really was a turning point, because when we started the business, we had no idea what we were doing. My father had been in the travel business. He'd been in shipping as an expat. We'd lived in different countries in the world. We lived in Israel, in Italy, in Nigeria. I'd been to university. I'd lived overseas for a while and came back. And when we started the business, I was 25 years old. And we had no experience of manufacturing, of retail, nothing. And there was this mad Israeli who wanted to immigrate to Australia to start making rugs. And we were the only ones crazy enough to loan some money against the house and start this little rug factory in Marrickville. Now, he told us that he knew how to make rugs. He had a rudimentary knowledge of how to make rugs. So he came and we started this rug factory with no infrastructure here. So no machinery, no wool, no glue, no fabric, nothing. So we had to create all of that, which we did. And we managed to get the factory going. And the quality that we were making initially wasn't flash hot. We were competing against well-established companies in the marketplace already, Taiping, Wycliffe, Robin Cosgrove, who'd been in the marketplace for 10, 15 years. So we were trying to break into a market which was very hard to get into. But there was one word, it was called perseverance, and the fact that my father's house was riding on it. And if we would have gone down, he would have lost the only asset that he had. The only problem was that in 1991, you had the recession that you had to have, and we were paying 21% money for our business loan and 18% for our home loan. So the trading environment, you had the stock market crash, blah, blah, blah. So it was very, very heavy going, but we hung on with our fingernails, like so many other businesses at the time in Australia, and managed to survive and grow and become the wonderful company that we've become today. It's been an amazing journey. A lot of our work initially was custom made, but we already in the early years, and interrupt me if I'm going off on a tangent, all right? So let me know if I'm on the right track. But already in the early years, we were working with Australian artists. Linda Jackson, Annie Georgeson, a very well-known fabric designer, Alan Leach-Jones, who was a very well-known painter. John Coburn was in our factory. He'd been commissioned by a private commission in WA to create some custom-made rugs. So already in our early years, we were already creating art rugs. And what we have become today is we're a design company which manufactures rugs or creates rugs. And obviously we're working with a lot of artists and designers. We have a very good in-house design team. We have 3 designers, so we've always been very innovative, and we only work with Australian designers. So through the 90s, we had some amazing projects. We did all the rugs. The Australian Embassy in Tokyo was rebuilt in the early 90s. That was a couple of hundred rugs there. We started working with Harry Seidler, who, of course, is an iconic Australian architect. Lend-Lease were redeveloping the Theatre Royal in the MLC building, and there was a huge wall hanging that had to be made. And it was really amazing. At the time, obviously, it was a very male-dominated industry, but Lend-Lease had one of the first women project managers. Her name was Pos Simpson, amazing lady. And she sent my father and I to go and see Harry so we could get the brief for the rug. So we walked in, and God bless Harry. He was an amazing architect, a wonderful human being, but he could be cantankerous at times. And we went to see him, and he basically threw us out and said, look, I've worked with Mr. Xu for the last 30 years out of Hong Kong, and I'm not going to start working with you now. Anyway, Pos Simpson gets on the phone and tells Harry that he has to work with us because we only have 8 weeks. and the rug delivered out of Hong Kong at the time would have taken 3 months. So Harry had to work with us. We created this beautiful piece that was hung at Theatre Royal. And about 3 months later, I get a phone call from Harry's offsite, a guy called Henry Finer. And Henry says to me, Harry wants to see you. So I went in and saw Harry, and Harry says, you did a nice job. And then we started doing a lot of his work, and it was a great honor and a privilege to be working with someone like him. You know, he was an amazing, well-known, renowned architect. He was doing the most amazing projects, and we got to know him and work with him. So for us, it was a great honor and privilege. And that's, I suppose, was part of our journey, that because we were doing very unique and very special handmade product in a little factory in Marrickville, and it was an artisan-based little factory. I think we gained the respect of the local industry, and that helped us in growing and getting to where we are today.
That's fantastic. Gosh, so much. I mean, you must have sort of had to have a sort of iron stomach and skin of steel to get through that, because I imagine it must have been very intimidating, Yosi, to have to sort of come up against Harry and kind of just grit your teeth, and when you're sort of nearly chucked out, you've got to come back in and sort of keep going, and then sort of at the end there to get that information.
Yeah, you're right. It was intimidating to go and see him, and and being asked to leave, on some terms, and then asked to go back, but Pos Simpson believed in us, and we had another instance where in 1991, Darling Park, the first tower in Darling Harbour, was being built by Lend-Lease. And Lend-Lease had an interior architect from New York called Eric Kuhn do the interiors. Harry had designed the building, and they were using Eric Kuhn, a wonderful American interior architect, to do the interiors of Darling Park. And his was a vision, because at the time, foyers were not places where people went and sat, and there were seating areas, and it was kind of a stay feeling. It was more about you walked into the foyer and then you went to where you had to go. It was very functional. Whereas Eric had this vision of it becoming more than that, a coffee shop, very comfortable, large Moran sofas, some rugs, coffee tables, and encouraging people to stay there and having meetings down there. So it became a more functional, more than just a functional area. Anyway, so we tendered for the project with 2 other companies. And one of my competitors, who shall remain nameless, told Eric that we were an Australian manufacturer and we would not be able to deliver his vision. We would not be able to do what he wanted. That got Eric really, really angry. And he told, and the guy's name who was running, I remember, he was a delightful gentleman. Vince Albanese was a project manager, one of the head guys there for Lend-Lease. And he said Eric said to Vince, I don't care, but this Australian company, Designer Rugs, is going to make these rugs, and you make sure that you negotiate with them, they win the tender, and blah, blah, blah. And that's what happened. We negotiated with Lend-Lease. We gave them the price that they wanted for the project. And then for 3 months, we worked with Eric on getting to where he wanted. He had a vision of the design, but he wasn't sure. And we worked with him. We sampled for 3 months. We then made the rugs. And then we were lucky enough to work on all the other Darling Parks. So we did Darling Park 1, 2, 3, and I think there was a 4th tower. And those rugs in Darling Park 1 remained there for 18 years. Now, capex on rugs like that in a foyer, usually they expect 5 to 7 years. So they got 3 times the value. And then we were lucky enough to replace them when they decided to replace them. But the quality that we were making here in Australia, the design aesthetic and the quality was just phenomenal. The other interesting thing was that in the late 80s, we were, as being a custom house, we had to dye our wool. And there was a small dye house in Dandenong, which was owned by a medium-sized carpet manufacturer called Craftsman. 2 really great guys, really wonderful gentlemen. But it was such a severe recession that there were a lot of casualties, and they were a casualty. But luckily enough for us, the bank sold the dye house as a going concern separately to the carpet manufacturing concern. So we got together with a couple of people, including a legendary carpet consultant guy called Alex Wood, who is unfortunately no longer with us, but a wonderful gentleman in the carpet industry. Alex was a great friend. He came on as a partner. A few other small carpet manufacturers in Melbourne who were making machine-made carpet came on as partners, and we started running a dye house. Now, that was pretty amazing because we had no idea of how to run or manage it, but we were lucky the dye master, guy Malcolm Wordsworth, a wonderful Englishman from Yorkshire with the most beautiful English accent, ran the business. He was also a minor partner with us. And we ran this really nice dye house for many years in order to be able to remain a custom-made hand tufting business. So eventually, when about 15, 20 years ago, when we did close our hand tufting operations here in Australia and we transferred all the production offshore, we sold the dye house because we had no need for it anymore. But it was a real joy to go down to Dandenong, you know, and you're walking between all those machines and the smell of the wet wool and the steam and, you know, a really interesting workforce. A lot of the women were immigrants who couldn't speak English, but yet they were like a family there. And, you know, Malcolm running around in his shorts and long socks. I have this memory of him. Just a wonderful human being. You know, it was an amazing journey. And when I reflect, you know, when you're in the middle of something, you don't realize what you have.
Tell me more about that, Yosi. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean is that, you know, we were making things with our hands. We were creating. We were craftspeople. We were, you know, adding value and doing very unique, original stuff. And, you know, we had a dye house, and it was just an amazing moment for us in our history. And when you're doing it, you don't realize how amazing it is. And when I look back on it now, you know, all the production's offshore, and obviously it has to be because you can't manufacture in Australia virtually anything anymore competitively. Although all the value add is here, you know, all the value add and all the profits and everything stay here, and we create, you know, a lot of economic activity here. So it's still worthwhile to do it. But back then, it was a special period. I look back on it very fondly.
Yosi, I mean, you've kind of, I think the last three questions I'm going to ask you, you've just answered them all. But would you? No, not at all. It's so interesting just to hear that whole journey and what you've gone through, and you've just kept going over the years, and it's amazing when so many people don't last the distance like designer rugs have.
Adam, it's just perseverance and belief in the personal self. I mean, in the early years, my father and I would sit in this little office which we shared with our secretary. So it was like a 3 by 3 meter office. And my father and I would look at each other, and he'd say to me, "The bank's going to drag me out of here," because it was very tough in the early years. Like you know, the overdraft was huge, the business activity was hard, but that's one thing. You just persevere, and I think there's a lot of stories around about business, and many businesses and other people, you know, persevere and they get there in the end.
Well, Monique, who's on here, has given quite a lengthy. I think she's quite engaged in what you're saying, Yosi. I think I won't go into the whole message, but there's a whole. I think here's just about quality being key. Would you say, Yosi, that has it really been an organic unfolding over the years? I mean, I know you started in Marrickville, and we heard how things have just sort of developed and grown. But did you have any sort of business plan back then in 1986 as a young guy with your parents, sort of with this vision?
We didn't really have a business plan as such. I mean, we did a plan on the back of an envelope, you know, and that we had to produce X amount of meters, and this is how much it would cost us, blah, 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 and these would be the overheads and whatnot. But we didn't ever have a vision that one day, you know, we'd be selling rugs all over the world, that we'd have collections with 30 of the best Australian designers and artists that are around, that, you know, we would be doing work all over the world. We'd be working with iconic brands like Dinosaur Design, Catherine Martin, Akira Sagawa, Camilla, Easton Pearson. I mean, it's an endless list, and we're greatly honoured to be working with all these people. I mean, working with Catherine has been an amazing journey. We did a whole hotel in South Beach in Florida with her called the Faena Hotel. It was a $1 million project, 2 or 3 rugs in every room, all the foyers and everything, all unique designs. That was phenomenal. The Great Gatsby, we made lots of rugs in the film. We actually went onto the site when they were filming. Catherine took us on, and we had a look, and it was very special moments. Working with Akira Sagawa, who's an incredible designer, very humble man. He's you know, he's a wonderful designer. We did the foyer of the Hill Hotel down at Pyrmont for the casino. DBI, an architectural practice on the Gold Coast, which does international work all over the world, including in the Gulf. I mean, they're very world-renowned. Came to us and said, we need a well-known Australian identity with an overseas profile that we want to design the rugs in the foyer. And they chose Akira. So having those sort of people working with us has allowed us, as I said before, we're not a rug company, but we're a design company through rugs. So that's been really interesting. And also working up close with a lot of these people, it's very inspirational. I remember working with Alex Perry. We started in 2007 or 2008 during the GFC. And, you know, things were pretty bad for everyone at the time. And I walked out of that meeting with Alex and thinking I could beat the world because his energy and his personality was amazing. He's an incredibly positive, energetic guy. And you walk out of there and you think, gee, I can beat the world with this guy, you know? So you meet these most amazing people on your journey as well. And it's not just that, because it's also really great for your staff and your company to be working with all these inspirational people. That, you know, there's a rub-off back to you as well. So working with those sort of people, you know, the very creative people, is also wonderful for the company. And that's why I think that a lot of people have stayed in the company. You know, two of the designers, senior designers, have been here for over 15 years, closer to 20. You know, salespeople, the accountants. I mean, people have been here for 10, 15 years, which is very rare these days. So that also creates an incredible esprit, you know, corps d'esprit, and it just creates a really good corporate culture as well, you know, a memory, because so often when people leave companies,
I think we've Yosi has stalled for a second here, so let's hope he comes back on. Come back, Yosi. You there, Yosi? You're back.
I am. Am I back?
I thought we were having a meltdown. The final few minutes of the show, and you're talking about all this great stuff. I thought we totally lost it. You're back.
So moving back to the collection. So in 2005, we approached Vogue Living and we said, we want you to create a real special party for our clients. And they said, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to approach 10 Australian designers and artists. And Akira was one, Dinosaur Design, Ian Halliday, the famous artist, blah, blah, blah. And we each designed a rug, and we raised $50,000 for Camp Quality, which is a children's cancer charity. But what was really interesting is that Akira's rug and Dinosaur Design's rug, people really wanted those rugs. So I approached Akira and I said, because we auctioned each rug for the charity, and we only made one rug, but there was such a huge demand for it. So I approached Akira, I said, mate, I reckon there's something here. Let's do a collection, right? So that was the first official. We'd done art rugs through our years up till then. You know, we'd worked even with someone like Howard Arkley, who unfortunately died early, but he was in the Venice Biennale in the late 80s. As I said, Linda Jackson, Annie Georgeson, John Coburn. You know, we'd worked with very well-known people, but this was the formalization of what we did. So with Akira, so we approached Akira, and that was before he became famous. You know, you remember he'd been on the Stamp and he'd won an award and whatever. So that was really good. So we started with him, and then I approached Dinosaur Design, Stephen Louise, and they agreed to do something, and that was really good as well. And then we approached another lady, Cloth, Julie Patterson, an amazing English designer who migrated to Australia about 30 years ago, lives in the Blue Mountains. A lot of stuff's really organic and really amazing stuff. And by then, we didn't have to approach anyone again. Everyone else that we worked with all approached us. So that was what really was amazing, that after that, we actually had to turn away some people. And we were just being asked all the time. And still to this very day, we get at least an approach once every month or 2 months. But we're very careful who we work with, and also we can't have a collection that looks like any of the other collections we've done, because at the end of the day, you don't want them competing. It has to be, each has to have its own handle. That's really important. So that's been also, so doing the collections and working with all these amazing people has been a wonderful journey. But the in-house designers, you know, Leah and Christine, who've been with me for over 15 years, and Philippa, they do amazing work, and we have a lot of in-house designs. You've used some of them in your work, and you know, that's a journey in itself. So without being arrogant about it, we look to Australian design. We don't look offshore. We've never used offshore designers. We're very much about Australian design. That's always been our focus for the 33 years, which I think is really important. So because there's so much talent in this country, and there's so much that we can do. So we're very Australian focused in how we bear things.
Absolutely, Yosi. I mean, gosh, what an amazing rundown of just almost 33 years of history in 27 minutes there. But you know, if I can just say, I mean, I've been a customer of yours, you guys, for probably since about 2010, so about 9 years.
It's been wonderful. And, we're very thankful you've been working with us. It's been a wonderful relationship, Adam.
Oh, thank you, Yosi. Well, what I wanted to say is I think the main reason these guys are hanging around is obviously because of the management and the care for you know, how they're treated in the community. I mean, I go into Designer Rugs and see Ken there, Yosi. Yes. And Ken's been at that desk when I've been in there, and he's been helping me since 2010, you know.
Well, he's been there for more than 15 years.
He's been there for more than 15 years. So when you say these things, I know you're not just saying them, and I know that I can attest that that's the case, because I see the same people there year in, year out, and there's only a reason they stay, is it's because of how they're, you know, the environment that they're working in. So I think that's amazing. And I think if we can just talk about Kenneth King, he's also got a range there, and he's also, as he said, been there for 15 years. So it's just fabulous. It's really great to hear today, Yosi, all about the process. I mean, we don't have a great deal of time, but I just found it interesting that so the Placid rug that I've used and the current rug, I've got a couple of pictures here. So this is all done in-house. These are all done by the designers that you've been talking about that have been with you for those years.
Yeah, so besides the collections that we do, the collaborations, a lot of our work is in-house. That particular design, the Aztec design, is done by Leah, and that reflects the Aztec culture, and it's nuanced, of course. All designers have their interpretation, and then with the colours that you chose in order to ensure that it worked with the interior that you created as a complement. And it's a hand-tufted rug. And hand-tufted rugs can be are made in about 8 to 10 weeks. I think you used another rug which was a hand knot, the Placid. And the difference between a hand knot,
Placid,
the difference between a hand tuft and a hand knot is that a hand tufted rug is a glued back rug, and you can make it very quickly. Although the commercial quality of it is fantastic. A hand knot rug can take anywhere 4 to 6 months. So that takes a really long time, and it's made by 1 or 2 people, so it's basically a big part of their life. So it's a beautiful, beautiful quality, and it just has an amazing appearance. So we do both, and we actually started doing Axminster carpet as custom made for some of the bigger projects in the last few years, and that's also worked really well. But I think one of the secret of our successes has been is that we've always focused on doing rugs and just doing it well, and making sure that we keep and most of our clients are designers and architects like yourself. That we love this industry. It is a wonderful industry. It has wonderful people in it, and most of the time we make most people happy. 99% of the time we make people happy. Unfortunately, occasionally, in manufacturing it's never 100%, but it's how you react to it. But it's a wonderful industry to be part of, and I think that's what kept me in it for 33 years, is working with people like yourself and others who are just wonderful to work with.
Well, yeah, that's thank you, Yosi. I mean, I think it's true. We're winding up now, but the one thing I could say about you guys, and it's so important, because you just lose your clients and customers if you can't do this. It doesn't matter if you have a problem, as you said. It's about how you handle it, and you just get on with resolving it. And that's such a good point. I know that definitely from my experience, it's anything that I've had in terms of service with you guys has been fantastic. So I just want to thank you, Yosi. Gee, wow, what an amazing to half an hour to learn all about that experience. And gee, you must be exhausted. You're going to take a holiday this year, and 33 years in June, and oh, you sort of manage that well.
My wife and I are doing a 4-week holiday in May, June. We're going off to Portugal. So
fantastic.
Which has always been a bucket list thing to kick off. But hopefully you and I can do dinner in the next few weeks before we leave.
Oh, fantastic. Let's do it.
And celebrate this wonderful show that you have.
Thank you, Yosi. Well, it's a celebration today, you being on there, being here. But we better wind up. I've just had a fabulous time hearing that whole story. I'm going to enjoy watching this again. And I will take you up on that dinner, Yosi. So let's finish there. But thank you so much. Isn't that a fabulous rundown of the last 32 and a half years, nearly 33 at Designer Rugs? Really appreciate all the insight, Yosi. If anybody, designerrugs.com.au.
That's correct.
Yeah, and they've got a fabulous showroom, great service down there on Parramatta Road at Leichhardt. Look them up. I love going into Designer Rugs. I think they're fabulous, and you are fabulous as well, Yosi. Thank you. Have a good weekend. I'm going to let you go.
Love being on the show. Thank you so much for asking me.
It's my pleasure, Yosi, and we'll see you guys next week. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Look forward to it. Bye.